welcome to our breakfast club call. My apologies on the technical difficulties this morning. Thank you all so much for your patience. So, if you are joining us for the first time, welcome. If you're joining us once again, welcome home. I remember when I first embarked upon entrepreneurship almost 12 years ago, I was looking forward to these type of morning mentorship calls, not only for the information I was going to receive, but for the inspiration I was going to receive. I know garbage in is garbage out and greatness in is greatness out. And being that our subconscious mind is open the most in the morning and at night, it is so imperative that we are filling it with absolute greatness and fire. So kudos to each and every single one of you guys that decided to start your morning off in that way. So if you joined us last week, we were talking about confidence, and like I like to call it Godfidence. And if you are joining us today, and those of you that are joining us today, blessed morning, everyone. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you guys. I'm happy that you guys are here. Thank you so much for your patience. I know this morning was crazy, but the devil is a liar. And I'm excited because today, as I was, preparing for this morning's Breakfast Club call, if I am being completely transparent with you guys, the last week and a half, 2 weeks, just so many things have been going on, and it just how kind of I haven't been in that mode. You know how you're supposed to be in that mode, and as an entrepreneur, sometimes, and my mentors and my therapists and all these people are like, you got to give yourself just grace to feel your feelings. You have to also give yourself grace to just make sure that you're taking time to rest, that you're taking time to actually, give yourself grace to prepare not only for your business, but give yourself grace to prepare for you to for the momentum, for the breakthroughs, for the blessings, and also just giving yourself grace when you don't feel like it, right? And honoring the space that you're in. However, I had to get into that mode. And I always am the person that, I believe finding is for the seekers. And I was looking at just different podcasts and listening to different things, and had come across one that was talking about leadership. And my pastor, Rich Wilkerson Jr. in Miami from Boot Church, I always tune into his newsletters as well. And one of the ones that we were talking about was clarity creating momentum. And when you're talking about unlocking your next level, you have to have a vision, you have to have purpose and alignment. So I wanted to spend the time talking about this because when you have clarity, it absolutely shifted your momentum. And I have experienced this not only in my business, I've experienced this in so many aspects of life, of just being absolutely clear in what it is that I want, and where it is that I'm going, what it is that I'm doing, and making sure that I'm in alignment. Because a lot of times you feel like you are just lazy, and you're not stuck because you're lazy. You're stuck sometimes because you're just unclear. And I'm going to break down 5 pillars of clarity really, really quick that create acceleration. Because so if you are taking notes, because note takers are history makers, I'm going to give you guys time, even though y'all had a lot of time this morning, to grab a pen and paper, grab a journal, and make sure, I always say that, take notes as if you were teaching this yourself. So let's talk about vision. You always hear me talk about, you have to have a vision for your life. You have to have a vision for your future. And I was reminded of myself of, okay, writing down what it is that my dream life looks like, what it is that vision looks like, not only what it looks like in my business, right, which falls under the category of fortune, but what does it look like in my faith? What does it look like in my family? What does it look like in my fitness? What does it look like in my fortune? What does it look like in my fun? And the reality is that a clear vision turns imagination into execution. A clear vision turns imagination into execution. And having clarity is greater than confusion, because the reality is that we can't hit a target that you don't have. So taking time of remembering, okay, what does that vision look like? What does that vision look like for your life? And take time to write it out, because when you have a vision, that vision is what's going to pull you when motivation can no longer push you. And I was reminded of what that vision looks like in different conversations that I've had with my mentees, or different conversations that I've had with mentors. And just because it is so imperative for when you want to get back into that mode, and where you want to accelerate your momentum and you want to unlock the next level, you have to have a vision. The vision has to be greater than the opposition that it is that you're facing. But when you don't have a target, you can't hit it. So making sure that you have clarity on that vision, because a clear vision turns imagination into execution. And here's the reality, that when you can see something, that means you're going to be able to steer it. Vision, it doesn't require for you to have all of the details, but it requires direction. And when you think of vision, I always say, create your North Star. What is your highest and best self? What does that look like? What is the 1 year vision? What is the 5 year vision? Who are you becoming in the process? Right? Who is that person that's deserving of this vision to come to fruition as well? So creating your North Star is for a year. And maybe you're like, well, I can't see 5 years out. Okay, well, do it for the next year. What does that look like for you? Who is that person that you're becoming in the process of this vision that you are working towards to bring to fruition? What does your faith level look like? The what doesn't need the how to begin. The what doesn't need the how to begin. And the reason why I say that is because I had to remind myself that it's like, okay, God never lets hard work go unnoticed. That the more faithful you are, but you have to equip that faith with work. You have to focus on your focus, right? Because whatever you focus on the longest becomes the strongest. Whatever you focus on expands. But what is that vision? And when you have faith and focus, you're going to be able to always realize that the what doesn't need the how to begin. Because yes, where we hear it all the time, where there is no vision, the people will perish. So I ask yourself today to just write it down. What do you want your life or your business to look like in the next 12 months? And when you break down your life, break down your 5 F's, your faith, your family, your fitness, your fortune, your fun. What does that look like for you? And maybe you're like, well, I have a plan already. I have that vision. Well, take time to rewrite it again. And here's another thing that I would encourage you. What's one bold move toward that vision? What is something that you're like, okay, well, this is definitely a step that I can take today, that it's going to bring me closer to the vision that it is that I want. Number 2, passion points to purpose. Ooh, if you know me, I'm very passionate, right? And your passion plus pain equals purpose. And somebody's like, wait, what do you mean passion plus pain equals purpose? Well, holy frustration often leads to divine inspiration, as Pastor Rich Wilkerson said it. But the reality is that what you complain about sometimes, it might be what you're called to fix. So if, for example, I know I'm passionate about helping people. I'm passionate about helping people build generational wealth. And sometimes in myself, I have to remind myself that yes, you are passionate about this, but the more that you are becoming an example of what does that look like. See, I always tell my team, and whether or it's mentees or my team in my business, I always tell them, I was like, you don't have to work like I do, but whenever you're ready to take it to that next level, you're going to be able to have a point of reference. You're going to be able to have a point of reference, because the reality is that I know what lights me up is often a clue what it is that you are built for. I'm also passionate about ministry, right? I teach Bible study on Wednesdays for the kids. I also teach on Sunday. I've been in kids ministry for over 25 plus years. And I also know that, no, I'm far from perfect because God's still working on me. But I know that that is something that lights me up. So what lights you up is often a clue to what it is that you are built for. And here's the reality. Energy doesn't lie. Energy doesn't lie. So you got to ask yourself, what is it that drains me versus what is it that fuels me? Because when you think about alignments, right? When you think about making sure the alignment is greater than the achievement. No, I'm not where I want to be at yet, but I'm so grateful that I'm not where I used to be. I am the most in alignment that I have ever been in my life. And the reality is that even when you achieve certain things, if you're not in alignment, the title means nothing if you are out of alignment. It means absolutely nothing. So your purpose is going to leave clues in your passion and in your pain. So I always know that God is turning that pain into power. I am passionate about empowering women. I'm passionate about empowering people. I'm passionate about letting them know that it doesn't matter what happened to you, right? It's what God is doing through you. Life is not happening to us, it is happening for us. So having that perspective is often what fuels you. But I also understand that what you are called to do and what you are working on, and you being in alignment with your assignment, that alignment is always going to be greater than the assignment. And we're going to talk a little bit about that a little more, but making sure that you know that, because a lot of the times, a lot of the doors that have been open for me have been because I've simply been in alignment. God has just put me in conversations. God has just put me in places, right? That I had no clue people were even talking about. But it's also understanding that that purpose is going to leave clues in your passion and also in your pain. And you get the choice to turn that pain into power every single day. So ask yourself, what frustrates you the most in the world? What frustrates you the most in your industry? What frustrates you the most in your family, in your business, in your community? What are those things? Because could it be that that's where your purpose lives? So ask yourself, what does that mean for you? Number three, perspective. Perspective unlocks potential. I have had a mentor once tell me potential is just a fancy word for you ain't doing nothing yet. And I was like, oh, but the reality is that's true. Elevation, it brings clarity. And you have to go higher to see further, right? Even God says, like, I'm renewing your mind because my ways are higher than yours. You can't grow beyond what it is that you can see. So this is why iron sharpens iron. This is why you need to be around people that stretch you. This is why you need to read. This is why you need to be around the best of the best, because a lot of times you need a new lens to unlock a new level. You need a new lens to unlock a new level. So, again, asking yourself, is this happening to me or is it happening for me? Elevate your environment. Your circle impacts your sight. Your circle impacts your vision. So, a lot of times, in certain people that brought you to one level, they're not going to be the same people that are going to bring you to the next. So, if finding is for the seekers, are you surrounding yourself around the movers and the shakers? Because a lot of times, certain mentors, certain leaders, they brought you to this level. And guess what? If you want to get to the next level, you got to get around more people. You got to get around people that are stretching you. You got to get around people that are inspiring you. You got to get around people that are forcing you to elevate, because your circle impacts your sight 100%. Zoom out to zoom in. Clarity often requires space. I heard before elevation requires separation. And a lot of times it's something that is tough to do, and it's something that is tough for me to do, because if you know I'm the loving person, I'm super giving, and but you got to love yourself more. You got to love the purpose more. You got to love God, yes, love people, but you got to know that what God is doing in you into this season, it requires for you to have a new lens, because that next level requires a new lens. So having a perspective that is going to unlock potential. What area of your life right now feels foggy? Where do you need to go higher so that you can see further? Ask yourself this, because the moment you're able to shift your perspective, oftentimes that happens because you were able to just zoom out. And sometimes it's not necessarily that you have to not get around the people that you're around, but sometimes you just need some quiet time with you and God. Sometimes you just need to be in a quiet space so that you are resting your mind. But more than anything, so that you can get to that next level, you got to zoom out so that you can zoom in. Yes, elevating your environment, but making sure you are taking time to see what it is that that looks like, because your perspective is going to unlock the next level. It's going to unlock the potential. It's going to bring clarity. The higher you see, the further you're going to be able to see, because you can't grow beyond what it is that you can see. Number four, action. I once heard action cures everything. Action cures everything, right? How you turn your adversity into your advantage is action. If you've heard me speak about that, I talk about that all the time. But action creates acceleration, because the reality is clarity, it must be followed by courageous and consistent action. And this is why I'm a strong believer that I know God never lets hard work go unnoticed, because anytime that I go into that mode and I'm getting in that mode of, okay, I got to just put in the work, because work is what works. So if you know that clarity must be followed by courageous, consistent action, you got to understand that clarity without movement is just stagnation. So a lot of times you're here because you not only don't have the clarity, but we're just not putting in the work. So if you're asking yourself, well, how can I just get into that mode? How can I start small? Start small, stay consistent, and stack the momentum. Again, progress is greater than perfection, right? We're not looking for perfect. God's son was the only one that was perfect, but you gain clarity by moving, not by waiting. You don't need more time. You need more action aligned with clarity in the time that it is that you have. So asking yourself, okay, what's one aligned action that I can take in the next 24 hours to move the needle? And yes, you have macro goals and you have these big goals, but the micro goals are those tiny things that you can do right now in the next 24 hours, right? That you can continue in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We have a 10 by 10 challenge going on, right? In our 21 days to transformation in our lifestyle club and business. And a lot of us are just doing 10 by 10. So what does that mean? You're reaching out to 10 prospects, whether it's by 10 a.m. or 10 prospects by 10 p.m. But you're in that mode because again, you don't need to do everything all at once, but you just got to start small. Stay consistent and stack the momentum. So again, what's one aligned action that you can take in the next 24 hours that's going to allow you to move the needle? Number 5, alignment fuels acceleration. You can't manifest what it is that you are misaligned with. So it's also asking yourself, okay, well, what are some of the habits? What are some of the thoughts? What is some of the energy right now that if you got to ask yourself, if my habits, if my thoughts, if my energy is contradicting my vision, then the momentum is going to stall. So asking yourself, okay, are my habits conducive of this vision that it is that I want to bring to fruition? Because you got to do an alignment check, right? If you've ever taken your car to get an alignment because it's like pulling you one way or pulling you the other, and it's just not safe. So if our cars aren't safe to drive us to the destination of where it is that we want to go because it's not in alignment, why do you think our life is not the same? You got to do an alignment check. Is your mind and your mouth and your movement, are they speaking the same language? Your mind, your mouth, and your movement, are they speaking the same language? I learned very, very early on, you can control what you think, you can control what you do, you can control how you feel and what you say. You can't control anything else. So you got to do an alignment check. Is your mind and your mouth and your movement, are they speaking the same language? Because if one is contradicting the other, then you're not in alignment. Energy flows where alignment lives. So making sure that you are in alignment with your mind, with your mouth, with your movement. So what are you thinking about? Are your thoughts conducive? You also often hear me say your mindset is where your mind sits, right? Your mouth, what it is that you are speaking over your life. Are you speaking what it is that you are seeking? Are you declaring over your day? Because a lot of times, yes, we have these macro goals and we want to accomplish these things and we have this big, big vision, as you should dream bigger, faster, believe bigger, sooner. However, it's what are you doing right now, present day? Is that in alignment? Because if your mouth is out of pocket, and sometimes I tell my mentees and I tell my students and I was like, would you let somebody talk to you the way that you talk to you sometimes? And it's taking inventory in ourselves and in our own thoughts and checking that, because if you wouldn't let somebody in the street talk to you the way that you talk to you sometimes, it's like we are our worst critics. We are our biggest critics, right? But making sure that your mind, your mouth, and your movement is in alignment because they got to speak the same language. And your movement is your actions. Are you putting in income producing activities? Are you putting in vision producing activities, things that are in alignment with your assignment, things that are in alignment with where it is that you want to go? Because again, where energy flows, alignment lives. And here's the reality. Every yes out of alignment costs us more than we think. So I have been in a season that I want to say yes to everything and I want to say yes to everybody because I want to just make people happy and I want to just help people. But the reality is, you got to take some time to help yourself. The reality is, you got to make sure that you're filling your cup, because if you're always giving, 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 who's the one that's filling your cup? And you got to be able to be protective of your space, of your mental, of your mind, of your mouth, of your movement, of your healing. So every yes out of alignment is going to cost us more than you think. Your ability to say no is more important than your ability to say yes when you are working towards not only your dream life and your goals, but when you are working to become the best version of you. So make sure that you're staying in alignment and ask yourself this: what are 3 areas that feel out of alignment? It can be your habits, it can be relationships, it can be spaces that feel out of alignment. And ask yourself, which one will you shift this week? Or what will you shift this week? It can be habits, it can be relationships, it can be spaces, but making sure your mind, your mood, and your movement is in alignment. So, you know, vision is born when frustration with what is creates passion for what it is that could be. We are in Holy Week, and I do believe that vision is the fuel of true leadership. And I believe that the same power that conquered the grave on the third day lives in each and every single one of us. And I'm not apologetic about it, and I'm not here to impose my faith or belief upon you, but that's just what I believe in. But I also was reminded this week that in Proverbs 28:19, that it reminds us that when people can see where they're going, they gain the strength to live with intention. They gain the strength to live with discipline. They also get the strength to live with hope. Vision does not confine it. It actually liberates it, because it draws boundaries to protect your purpose. It draws boundaries to protect your calling, to protect your mission, to protect that you have been commissioned for such a time as this. But it also creates focus that produces fruit. So if you're ever like, okay, well, this is not working, so always go back to, am I in alignment? In when we're looking in the book of Habakkuk, it says that when he climbed the watchtower, it wasn't to escape what was happening around him. It was to elevate his view. So what that means is that we gain vision when we lift our eyes through prayer, through worship, but staying focused on the mission, staying focused on that vision. And yes, in God's presence, we can stop reacting to the chaos and start receiving divine clarity, right? And I pray that the heavens open up over your lives and you release clarity is released and vision over your life like never before. But write the vision and make it plain. Let it set the pace for your plans and also the people that you are called to lead in this season. You don't need all of the details. You just need a clear direction from God, but you need to make sure that your mouth, your mind, and your movement is all in alignment. A lot of times we're doing our best to lead what it is that we can see with, but don't lead by what you see. Lead by what's already been revealed. Lead with vision, because if you have that vision in your heart, one yes from God will outweigh a million no's from man. When you get clear, you move faster. And when you move faster, you get freer, right? I think that's a word. Yes, you get freer. You have that freedom. So stop waiting, start seeing. And again, if you are asking yourself, okay, I know I probably got here a little late. Clarity creates momentum, unlocking your next level with vision, with purpose, with alignment. Vision brings direction, passion points to purpose, perspective unlocks potential, action creates acceleration, and alignment fuels acceleration. This has been your Breakfast Club call. Breakfast has been served. Thank you guys so much for your patience today through our technical difficulties, and I will see you guys soon. Blessings on blessings. Happy Easter, y'all.